A 65 kilogram person throws a 0.045 kilogram snowball forward with a ground speed of 30.0 meters per second. A second person with a mass of 60 kilograms catches the snowball. Both people are on skates, and the first person is initially moving forward with a speed of 2.50 meters per second, and the second person is initially at rest. What are the velocities of the two people after the snowball is exchanged? Disregard friction between the skates and the ice.
Alright, so here it looks like we have two separate situations, so two different collisions. And because there are no external non-conservative forces acting on either situation, we're assuming that for both collisions, momentum is conserved. So for the first situation, momentum initial is equal to momentum final. And then for the second situation, momentum initial is equal to momentum final. Alright. So let's draw out the different situations. So for the first collision between the first person and the snowball, the first person is holding the snowball, and they are both initially moving with a velocity of 2.5 meters per second. But then afterwards, the man throws a snowball. So now they have separate velocities. So the man he's going at an unknown final velocity, but the snowball is going at a velocity of 30 meters per second. So we can make up an equation to represent the conservation of momentum here. So initially, the mass of the snowball and the mass of the first person, they both have a velocity initial of 2.5 meters per second, but I'm not going to plug that in yet. And at the end, the first person has his own final velocity, and the snowball will get its own velocity as well, which would be 30 meters per second after it is thrown. So now let's get on to the second situation. So initially, the snowball is moving. Sorry, let me make that a little bit more straight. So now the snowball is moving at 30 meters per second. Towards the second person. With 60 kilograms and is also at rest to start off with. So that means he has no momentum to begin with before the collision. But afterwards, when the collision, after the collision occurs, the man is holding the snowball, and they're both moving together at an unknown final velocity. And the equation for this collision would be that initially only the snowball has momentum, but afterwards the snowball and the second person have a shared final velocity. Alright, so now that we have these equations, we can isolate the variable that we want to solve for and get our final answers. Alright, so now that we have our conservation momentum equations for both collisions, let's isolate the variable that we want to solve for both of the equations. So for the first one, we want to get the final velocity of the first object by itself. So first we're going to subtract the momentum of the snowball after the collision from both sides of the equation. So now we get this. And now all we need to do to isolate the final velocity of the first object, or first person I mean, all we have to do is divide both sides by the mass of the first person. So now we'll get what our final velocity of the first person would be. Alright, so now we have this equation. So now all we have to do is substitute and we'll find our final velocity. So I'm going to start right over here, and our values are in the top left corner. So all we have to do is plug and chug. Alright, so now that we have all our values substituted in, we'll find out that our final velocity, or the final velocity of the first person, is 2.48 meters per second. So now let's try to figure out what the final velocity of the second person is. So let's move on to the second collision. This one's simple. All we have to do is divide both sides by the mass of the snowball added to the mass of the second person. Divide both sides of the equation. So now all we have is the momentum of the snowball before the collision for the situation divided by the mass of the snowball and second person add together. So let's substitute in our values. And if we plug into our calculator and hit enter, we should find out that the final velocity of the snowball and also of the second person is 0.0225 meters per second.